Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Men's Club podcast. My name is Mark Aylward, and I'm here as always with my good friend, colleague, and co-host Jim Gurley. And yeah, we had another interesting pregame. We talked about a number of different things. I brought something to the table for one of the first times in a while, and something I read this morning, and Jim did as well. I think what we're going to do today is talk about a term that is somewhat fabricated, self-alchemy. But before we go there, I want to say, our public service announcement. If this resonates with you and you're listening, really would appreciate it if you headed over to Apple and gave us a 4 or 5 star review and a sentence or two in the review section. That really does help us reach a larger audience. We haven't really done any monetization or any advertising, so to speak. So we really are depending on our listeners to at least initially spread the word. And then, we can create some momentum. So if you have a moment, please do that. Enough said, we can jump in. So Jim came across this term self-alchemy, and I'm going to read a brief definition. Um, Self-alchemy is not a standard phrase, but is an understandable combination of self and the historical concept of alchemy. It refers to the process of inner transformation and personal development using the metaphor of a medieval alchemist's quest to turn base metals into gold. And I think what I like about that, Jim, is this, we all have our own quote unquote base metals, skill sets, environment, circumstances, resources, if you will. And we're all aspiring to produce our own version of gold. Might be a message, might be a patent in your case, might be a product or a service, something to give back to the world, having been granted whatever has been our base metals, so to speak. So, Jim, I've got a couple other things that I want to read, but let's throw it over to you. And what are your thoughts on this self alchemy concept, turning our base metals into gold?
Yeah, Mark, again, the pregame was good because it's going to tie right into this. It always seems to work out. But I came up with this term because I heard it. I've obviously heard the word before. I find that when I put a self and a hyphen in front of something, it just changes the complete meaning. And of course, for those that have listened, we've created this framework, and we call it the wheel of life, or the hub of your life, with these 5 areas of your life. But in the center always is the selves. And we have this library. I think we're close to 40 different words. And then the self, which you used to describe it, I was like your visual of, if you look at your hand, you have 5 fingers, and the center is self. Starts off with self-awareness, and then from self-awareness, just keeps going and going and going. Of course, self-evaluation and so on. So we're going to add this to the library, and it speaks to kind of our core work, our life's work, things that we may have been accumulating for years and years and years, and you don't think it's valuable, or it doesn't apply. But this paradigm shift that I really feel, we equally feel, that is going on right now with artificial intelligence and what is going on in the world, I find very exciting, especially as a creator, and how the this these materials that sometimes we've been collecting for decades have value, but with using these new technologies. So the word um, self in this case applies to something that we want to bring to the world while we're still here. And let's just go through the 5 areas of our life just to remind us. So we have our profession, which in this case, we're going to talk a little about the work that you're doing and the materials you've been collecting for years that's related to somebody's profession. We talk about relationships with others. That's man, woman. That's our relationship with money, abundance versus scarcity. Our relationship with ourselves, that's our well-being, our physical health, our mental health. This is very related to our mental health in terms of our self-worth, our self-value. And then our worldview, how we see the world. We could see the world as positive, and it could be exciting, but you can also go very negative. So when you start to see that maybe uh, we have collected this collection of assets, this collection of things that we put together, and then could bring those to the world. Isn't that really what's inspired this podcast every week? That's how you and I got together. So I think it fits right into the wheelhouse.
Yeah. It's in the context of self-alchemy, the resources you refer to are these base metals. And
Mhm.
again, those I think those could be sometimes I feel like I have my arms around my competencies and my capabilities, and sometimes I feel like I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
Mhm.
And but we all have resources, and then I think the gold reference in terms of turning those resources into gold, the proverbial gold, in your case might be patents, might be
Yeah.
mentorship, might be however else you can serve the world. And the list is long. In my case, it might be more service oriented, wisdom oriented, advice oriented. Obviously, we both cross over into each other's worlds resource wise. But I
Mhm.
think your life's purpose is, what is my gold? What am I trying to do
Mhm.
here?
Yep. Yeah.
What am I
What are your
attempting
raw
to
materials
deliver?
that you've collected over time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apologize for interrupting, but I want to come on this because what kicked this conversation off was you're creating. You said, "Hey, I'm building a system," and I said, "Oh yeah, obviously I like systems, I like processes." And I said, "Well, what's the system?" You said, "Well, I've had all these documents and all this work, and now with AI, I can aggregate that. I can really bring that all into one place and have a conversation with it, and then push that content out in ways that I've never been able to do before." I don't want to speak for you, but that's my understanding of a paradigm shift where you have this technology and you had these yeah, the gold, right, that you've been collecting that a lot of times we think we'll never use or it's not valuable. And now we've entered this new time where it has and I'll share my story how it's very relevant right now in terms of a
Yeah,
pattern.
I think that, and I agree with you. I want to just kind of make a nuanced correction because I don't have the gold. I'm working to build the gold. I've got the resources, and my project that you're referring to, and I appreciate you bringing that up, is just I got all this content about how to move forward professionally, how to find work, how to regain confidence, how to communicate better, how to lead, all of the things that come from the 35, 40 years of experience professionally I've had helping people move forward professionally. And what AI has helped me do is say, okay, let's organize this stuff.
Hmm.
First,
Hmm.
stick it in this folder, this repository, this container, and then let's start to organize it. Let's start to label it. Let's
Hmm.
start to put it in order of
Hmm.
what's first, second, third, fourth, or fifth. And let's try and do that with the goal in mind. And that is the gold. And so it sounds kind of easy to say, oh, I could identify what the gold is, just be successful. Well, that's an
Yeah,
elusive
well,
term.
I'll look at it slightly different. Just as a visual, gold means there's the gold is there. The gold is in the mountain, so the gold is there. It's just the process of mining the gold is very difficult and takes years. And like, let's use the gold rush. All right, that's where I live. I'm right here. The gold rush. Many people came from all over the world to mine gold that never found gold,
Mhm.
but it was very difficult to to find the gold. So I see it as the gold is there, Mark. You're mining it. You're bringing it out, and now you have these new technologies, these new tools that you never had before that you feel that will facilitate this in a way that was really unthinkable a year or two ago or less
Yeah, no,
with these tools.
that's a valid point. I think maybe another road into the discussion would be the difference between gold and maybe a diamond, right? The diamond is something
Yeah.
that requires friction and pressure and time. So it
Hmm.
begins as more of a rock and turns into a diamond. So they're
Yeah.
both going on at the same
Yeah.
time,
The
I
other
think.
term that I like to use or starting to use more is to curate something.
Yes.
You're curating it by it was there. You're just curating it to bring it to life. But again, we have these tools, but one of them we're using right now, these technologies where we can bring this to the world in ways that was just impossible in the past. You either had to have a news network or a corporate platform of some kind. So it's exciting times. But I do think what you're going to share with us and this term, but also how it always goes. Even though there's that technology, it really goes back to maybe day one. Some things don't change, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
wisdom that's in that is still there, and that's what machines can't do. That's what fake media can't do. That's what uh, to being authentic and the self alignment is everything.
Yeah.
You're really just It's yourself that you're aligning with the raw materials that you had in relationship to the time, and then of course the audience, the message.
Yeah, and your values. Are you aligned with your
100%
values?
to be authentic
And
yourself. Yeah.
assessing what my values are is an ongoing process. I'd like to bring
Yeah.
in this poem I came across as well,
Okay. Yeah.
if I may. Um, yeah, because while you're mining your resources and your gold and trying to turn rocks into diamonds, the world is watching, and
Hmm.
the world is
Sometimes, not always.
well, but the
Sometimes they don't give
world,
a shit.
yeah, well, most of the time they probably don't give a shit. I think it's more of our perception about
No
being
question.
watched than it is
No, no,
actually having people watch. But
no question.
what, how does the criticism and observation of the world impact what we're doing? And this poem speaks to that. Let me read it, and then maybe we can make it a part of the discussion thereafter.
Mhm.
People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you do good, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you'll win some false friends and some true enemies. Succeed anyway. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building, someone could destroy overnight. Build anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, there may be jealousy. Be happy anyway. The good you do today, people will often forget tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have, and it may never be enough. Give the world the best you've got anyway. You see, in the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. And I love that, and I love the fact that it's like while we're pursuing our life's work, so to speak, Jim,
Mhm.
your phrase you used last episode, while we're mining our gold, while we're trying to turn the rocks in our lives into diamonds, there's this influence or perceived influence, to your point,
Mhm.
that people are watching and judging and criticizing.
Mhm.
And I think the point of this poem is do it anyway. So what?
Yeah.
That shouldn't
Uh,
keep you from pursuing your life's work.
yeah. No, there's so many layers to it, and it's powerful, Mark. It's a powerful, and again, we'll unless somebody already knows, we'll reveal where it came from, but it applies to everything in life, and it's something we talk about all the time, right? 90% of life is just showing up.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to show up, but don't quit, especially if it's something um, that you believe in. Um, yeah, not everybody wants to see you win, and people will try to talk you out of it. Sometimes with good intentions, but if you really believe in it, it's in you. You can't let it go. It's so it speaks to me in the very timely again in that I'm filing. I had a provisional patent I filed last year, and so now I've decided to turn it into a non-provisional patent. It's a very expensive and grueling process because it's an AI patent for the industry, so it's very technical. But I had to go through documents that I've been collecting. Some of them go almost 10 years ago. That
Mm.
these were the the word you used earlier, the ideation, the light that went off, the epiphany of what was possible, of how this could change the industry, how this can change everything. Not knowing anything about computer vision, not knowing anything about AI or the technologies that it would take to do it. So I believe the timing is good. It's like everything; it's a huge risk, but it's also discouraging at times because you're like, I've been working on this for this year, for this long, and there's been no result of it yet, right? There's been
Mm.
some, but no monetary results, and so it's easy to to give up or what she say? Keep doing it, just to keep doing it. Then you get to a point where you were telling everybody because you thought it was cool to tell them or you thought you'd impress them, and after that many years you don't even talk about it anymore. You just keep doing it. You just keep doing it because it's in you. And if you don't, my greatest fear, I've said this before, the greatest fear I have in life is regret that I didn't try. I'd
Mm.
rather die trying than to live not trying. It really is the when I refer to one of the most important conversations you'll ever have is with yourself. That's the one I have with myself in terms of, um, yeah, what would I say to myself? And by the way, in the patent world, if I don't file it, then it becomes anybody can take it. My ideas, they can use it in the U.S. Patent
Yeah, I
world.
think the deadline component of that is interesting because
Yep.
without that, what's your deadline? Death.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you going to get it done before you pass on? But
Yeah.
you brought up life's work before, and I think that to me, what I question when I'm questioning what I'm doing, which is pretty much daily, is it aligned to my values, and I love that word, but also is it virtuous? Is it
Mhm.
worthwhile? Is it going to make the world a better place for
Mhm.
me and other people? And that's where this do it anyway thing, I
Mhm.
think
It,
really resonates for me
yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if it
Because you're right,
is,
Mark. It may not, but do it anyway.
do it anyway. Yeah.
It may not, but do it anyway. And because if it's also maybe in the beginning you're serving it to serve your ego. And then later on, if it's really your life's work and you're really true, you're passionate about it, you believe in it, you just have to do it anyway, knowing that nobody may never know. Nothing may come
Yeah,
of it. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know you and I have talked about your cabinet maker story quite a few times, and we've talked about my how did I become a recruiter story. I personally can reflect back on that and say, I got into that through circumstance and
Mm-hmm.
just continuing to pursue this notion that I had a family that I was going to support. So I had a solid motivation, but I didn't have any direction. I didn't know what
Mm-hmm.
recruiting was. I didn't know whether this was for me or not, but I did it anyway. And over a
Mm-hmm.
long period of time, it became something that I think has created a lot of value for other people. But I
Mm-hmm.
can't pretend that that was like I did that on purpose. At least me. I don't know what your story is.
I have a lot of stories, but this refers back to the paradigm shift that we're in right now. I think at one point, especially in our lifetime, you had to have permission to bring things to the world, either with a degree or with a title or with something that said you're worthy of bringing that to the world. And now things have really changed. It's you don't have to necessarily have a degree. You have to be credible. You have to be authentic. You have to have done something that is valuable or worthy that somebody would believe whatever you're doing is worth investing in or buying. But yeah, I do think that uh, this is back to the paradigm shift in the timing that we can do these things that weren't possible before, and obviously resources, time. You know, we're a little bit older, so we have time to do these things. To your point earlier in the pregame, you know, we were in the sales industry for 30 years. Our job every day was to be speaking to people, selling things. So you know, we're also in a different mode where we can go into this more creative period where it's not just about the pressures of the production for the day, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's interesting. We said it earlier. You had said something similar about the world need to give us permission. I think what we've discovered as well is not only is that not the case now, perhaps it never was the case.
Yes, yeah.
Perhaps we really just could always have given ourselves permission. The
Mhm.
constraints were more social, they were more cultural. But they were also like boundaries. And I talk about this in the career space all the time. Like
Mhm.
you're in a box right now, you're doing this, whatever this is, and you're working for these people in this industry.
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah.
Most people never ask that question, you know? They never
Yeah.
ask that question. So I think the permission thing is interesting because I think certainly moving forward, but possibly in hindsight, this has always been the case. It just didn't seem that way or feel that way. What do you think about that?
What I think is that there really is a paradigm shift going on. You're no question, you know, it's all in our head and our confidence in our environment to express yourself to the world. But here's why it's different, and I'll just use your system that you're building. You know, this term second brain. That was a concept that you know I'm so busy. I wish I had a second brain. I wish there was two of me.
Yeah.
With this technology, AI, is obviously what I'm referring to. Um, One, you can have a second brain. That's what an AI assistant does. As you said, it not only does it remember your brain, it's there 24/7. It can bring things up. It can make recommendations. So I really think this is a very unique time in history, and we're fortunate to be part of it. And we're fortunate that we have some knowledge and wisdom that we can bring to the world using these technologies. I refer to it as the second brain. But I also want to take this opportunity to redefine what AI means. And I really like this. I heard it recently. I didn't make it up, but we looked at AI as artificial intelligence, as something was artificial, and then it became part of intelligence. When we're in the process of moving from that to amplified intelligence, so we're amplifying something that I'll just your case and my case, right? You're amplifying your 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 um your thoughts, your wisdom, your writings for pretty much your whole life, but let's just say in the last 10 years. I've seen some of your stuff when we first met, some really good stuff, right? Now you're curating that in a way that it can be amplified out to the world in a way that was just unthinkable, or even to hire an assistant or a research person to do those writings or find that and create context to it was just not a practical thing to do. And so, yes, I want to emphasize the difference between AI as artificial to an amplified intelligence as this tool that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
and
it's good. It's a great word. It's a great contextualization. I think that, what I'm doing in my process, and I love the word curation. That's a good word. I think that that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm taking a disorganized set of resources, very valuable resources, very valuable advice, and curating it so that I'm giving it a number of things. One would be order, like what's the first step? What's the second
yeah.
step? What's the third step? There might be also, what do I want to amplify or exaggerate or turn the volume up on? Because this is more important than that. They're both important, but if you're talking about a
Mhm.
priority, this would be first priority, second priority, third priority. And then
Mhm.
one of your favorite words, frame it, give it a
Mm.
framework,
Oh yeah, you
you know,
have to create a framework that you can effectively communicate that to others, right?
frameworks make things easier to explain and they make things easier to
Mhm.
understand. So in the
Yeah.
context of a self-alchemy notion, what do
Mhm.
you do with all these base metals? Like what do I
Mhm.
start with? What are the
Yeah.
temperatures that I use? What are how much of this, how much of that? What do I put in first, second, and third? It's all the
Mhm.
same thing. It's
Yeah.
the curation word, I think, is what it comes down to. How do I
Mhm.
take my life's work and
Mhm.
curate it, whether it's into a framework, an order, a priority,
Mhm.
so I can deliver it to the world in its most effective fashion, at least for
Mhm.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of a call I had this morning. Again, I did this intentionally because I have this October 15th deadline where the patent has to be executed, but also I hired the software development team to also create the application or the prototype of the application because we'll use some of those assets in the filings. But the as I was saying, I had of course the technical teams from all over the world, so it was a call early this morning. Talking, referring to documents that I had put into the provisional patent last year, uh, and some of these documents, like I said, were 10 years old of my vision. And at first, again, it could be very kind of like, I can't believe I wasted this much time and I have nothing. Now, all of a sudden, I'm thinking, I can't believe this stuff is exactly what it's happening. Like it's coming to life, uh, but even better. And then you look at the date on the document, 7 years old, 5 years old, the database, whatever, all the UI, the UX, the workflows. And but it all to your last to kind of our last point about I created this framework called capture, create, collaborate. So it's capture the information. In this case, it's for the kitchen renovation industry. It happens over 10 million times a year just in the US. And I realized, hey, you can use the cell phone. This is before computer vision or it was everything's a cabinet in my mind and this box in the scene. You can pixelize the scene. Well, it turns out that was actually true, right? These lines in the scene, it's pixelized. So that was to capture the kitchen uh, as it was with a mobile phone, no special equipment, to create a single source file that was inspired by a VIN number on a car. So everybody that scans their kitchen can now have this reference number that has all the data in it, as far as when it was created and so on. But then so it was capture, create, and then the collaboration was the homeowner with the designer, the contractor, the reseller, all the different donations and the tax advantages. But back to framework, that I created that framework, yeah, almost 10 years ago, and it worked better this morning than it ever has, because now that's all going to be put into an AI model where this is going to be done through artificial intelligence as a living brain that facilitates this process uh, instantly without a human. So it's just remarkable, right?
Yeah, yeah. Look, there's so many, like you say, layers to that. You know, it's delayed gratification, it's persistence, it's do it anyway. It's just
yeah.
you know, I feel like a lot of the times when I take the resources that I have, the base metals, if you were, and I'm in pursuit of this gold, um, I wonder quite often, is what I'm doing right now worth
Mhm.
continuing to do? Is what I'm doing right now of value? And I think that I find myself having to just be patient and go back to the cliche of like, if
Mhm.
you have a reasonably good process in place, then you really don't want to waste a whole lot of time on outcomes. The outcomes will come. And you just described exactly that situation over a
Mhm.
10-year period of being patient.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were intentionally patient or not, or you just are
Oh
pleasantly
no. Oh,
surprised.
Mark, I mind fuck myself. To, t- oh no, I beat myself up. It's a lot of money. It's embarrassing. Nobody likes failure. It's a tremendous amount of failures. But I just, again, I so much appreciate your quote. Just keep doing it. Don't stop. Just do it anyway. Do it anyway.
Yeah,
Do
and
it
you know,
anyway.
another fascinating thing is even the stuff that ends up being a quote unquote a waste of time,
Yeah.
it's not a waste of time because you learned something from it and you
Mhm.
made progress. You can't always notice the progress. It's like I'm sure in medieval times, the alchemists that were trying to take these crazy foreign metals and turn them into gold are like,
Mhm.
we don't know if this is going to work. But if we just
Yeah.
continue to move in that direction and curate and curate and ideate and show up every day, forget about what other people are talking about, forget about the world,
Mhm.
forget about
Right.
jealousy, forget about opinion and judgment and all that stuff, and just keep showing up. It's a pretty magically simple formula. It's very
Mhm.
difficult to do, but it's magically simple, magically delicious.
Right. And then, like you said, who you're trying to serve. But if you help one person, in your case, change careers or get a job and it changed their life, maybe it doesn't have to be in the millions. Of course, I'd like it to be in the millions because that's for the ego and that validation that what we did. But like in your case, you aggregate, you create this information, it gets to the right person, you may never know, but then they listen to it, and then all of a sudden they make a career change, or they see their career differently, and you change the outcome of their life. That's pretty cool, right? I think that's the other thing we can't. Of course, we're attached to the outcome, but we can't be so attached to the outcome that if it doesn't go as we think it should, because it never does, then that's considered a failure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
you know, I had lunch with a friend last week, and he's a senior level executive guy, very successful guy, very nice guy, and he asked me to get together for lunch because he wanted to bounce some stuff off me, and he
Mhm.
essentially finds himself out of work for the first time in his life,
Mhm.
and
Yeah, devastating to his ego, right? This
it
his
was
self
really it
confidence,
was
everything.
really
Yeah, yeah.
interesting because he
How old
poured
was
his
he, if you don't mind me asking?
55.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and he's got a good solid number of years saved up. He's not like in any form of desperation, but in talking to him, it was really interesting. And everyone who's in that situation goes through this. And he did pour his heart out to me. There was some shame, there was some
yeah.
embarrassment, there was some anxiety, a lack of
Yes.
confidence in a guy that was formerly very confident,
Hmm.
and helping him rebuild that just by being a human
Yeah.
and not only being human but bringing all of my experience, like I've seen this a million times, I
Yeah.
kind
And
of
just for him to
know.
hear that from you,
It was
it changed. He changed. You probably changed his whole it changed his life almost instantly, right?
But
If he,
you know what's really cool about it, and you're absolutely correct. I saw that metamorphosis over the lunch table. I
yeah,
watched it. It
yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Now,
I said life, but you not change that. You definitely changed his thought process,
his
his
outlook.
feeling, his
Yep.
outlook. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I I restarted rebuilding his confidence right there at
And he
lunch.
comes
But
alive right in front of you,
yeah, it's
back alive.
fascinating.
Yeah,
But the even cooler thing is I know he's going to go back into the world and
yeah,
he's going to help somebody else. Or
sure.
everyone he touches is
Yeah,
going to be touched with a higher level of optimism,
yeah,
more hopefulness, more confidence, more
yeah,
humility, which is very powerful, more gratitude.
yeah,
So that butterfly effect is maybe even better than the instantaneous gratification of watching him go from kind of concern to
yeah.
really a little more hopeful.
That's very cool. Yeah, just do it anyway, right?
Yeah,
Regardless, you may never see exactly who it impacted or how it changed somebody's life, but it doesn't matter. Do it
it
anyway.
doesn't matter. Yeah, and that's, I mean, if you're striving, anybody who's listening,
Yeah.
this is how I'll conclude. If you and Jim, I'll throw it over to you. I don't mean to turn your volume off, but you
Yeah.
know, if you're striving, try to pay little to no attention to the opinions of other people or
Yeah.
the results that you might get immediately, or whether
Mhm.
you ever see evidence of the results. Do it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of a quote. It's been a while since I, but it's about innovation. It's about bringing something to the world that doesn't exist, and I think it was Steve Jobs. Sort of something around that is that first they make fun of you right? When you have
Hmm.
a new idea. Yeah.
Hmm.
Then they laugh at you. Right? Then they criticize you.
Hmm.
Uh, and then they celebrate you.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's the way. That's the phase, right? You're a joke. You're an idiot. Yeah, they laugh at you.
You're
Crit-
crazy. Yeah.
you're crazy.
Yeah.
They criticize you, and then all of a sudden, you know, they celebrate you, meaning that you become this genius. But you weren't always a genius. You
No,
know,
you were an overnight success.
yeah, exactly.
Well, you know,
It-
I want to throw one more thing in, and
yeah,
I think it was a niece of yours a couple of years ago said it to you or left you a note to this extent,
yeah,
but it was never accept criticism from someone from whom you would not seek advice.
you're right.
I love that.
That would, I do too. And you're right. That was from her, and she was, I think at the time, like 14 years old, so or
From the
15.
mouths
So
of babes.
talk about a wise woman. But you're
Yeah.
right, and that was she was saying. Never. It's a great way to end it, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim.
All right. Till next week.
See you.